To rest in Johannesburg this afternoon. The funeral was attended by stalwarts of the tripartite alliance. Pahad served as minister in the presidency from 1999 until his resignation, alongside former President Thabo Mbeki in 2008. Moloko Moloto has been following the story for us, and as various tributes have flowed in as the news of Pahad's passing has spread far and wide. Moloko, thank you so much. This is a man who was a minister in the presidency, but before he took official office, really seen he and his brother and his family as stalwarts of the fight against apartheid, and many people saying yet another one from a certain era who has gone.
That's correct. In fact, as you might have, I beg pardon, as we were speaking to some of the people who had come to the family to pay their last respects, I think it was Nomvula Mugonyani who said it marks the end of the era. And of course, he comes from a very politically or a political family. We heard from the son as he was delivering the eulogy there that his family was open to the likes of Walter Sisulu and Nelson Mandela. And we also heard that he was there, although he was not a delegate, during the Congress of the People when the Freedom Charter was adopted here in Johannesburg. But as a youngster, he managed to go there and be part of that particular history-making moment. And he also spent some time in exile. We know that together with his other brother, Aziz, who at some point was also a member of cabinet, during the struggle, they were there in the United Kingdom, spending time with the former president of the Republic, Thabo Mbeki, and it was not surprising when he came back that he kept him closer to him when Mbeki became the deputy president of the Republic, first as his parliamentary councillor and later as minister and in his cabinet. And of course, today we saw Mbeki himself joining the mourners, and you could tell that indeed he was touched, seeing or bidding farewell to his friend. The family also, through the son, Govan, was also paying tribute. Perhaps let's listen to him as he was bidding farewell to his father.
Towards the end, when he became very sick, we couldn't go out of the house. He couldn't leave his oxygen machine. So he couldn't do a lot of the things that always brought him joy. But when his family and friends came to visit, his face would always light up. And every day his grandchildren would come and visit him. And they'd run into the room and smile and hug their papa and tell him that they loved him. And it was something that brought joy and happiness at the very end of his life. No matter how weak and sick he was feeling, he would always be so happy to see his grandchildren.
We've heard views from the family there. We know he was very, very close to his family, and most beloved to him were his grandchildren. We've heard a lot from that as well. But we've also seen the current sort of generation of leaders in politics, in various organizations connected to politics, who have been very influenced by the likes of Essop Pahad and indeed his brother. What were some of the thoughts that some of those politicians, that generation, shared today in memory of Essop Pahad?
Yeah, of course, the current Deputy President Paul Mashatile, who was there as acting president since President Cyril Ramaphosa is abroad, was there representing government because this was an official funeral as well, afforded to the former cabinet ministers. And he spoke fondly about Mr. Pahad, and he says that he also went to speak to him towards his last days, and he could tell that he really couldn't even recognize him, but he told of how, you know, the last moments were with him. And also, you'd recall that Dr. Pahad besides him being an ANC leader, who, by the way, was among those cabinet ministers who resigned when Thabo Mbeki was fired by the African National Congress as President of the Republic in protest. They resigned en masse, and he's one of those who really never went back to the National Executive Council as a minister. Of course, he was also a member and leader of the South African Communist Party. And this is where you would have the SACP leader, the General Secretary Solima Paila, also coming to pay last respect. And we also heard from Nomvula Mukonyane, who says that the late Dr. Pahad was so passionate about the renewal of the ANC. But let's listen to Mr. Solima Baila, who was representing the party.
Dr. Pahad was a senior leader of the Communist Party, a great patriot of our country, a selfless comrade who lived humbly, who respected all people, but was a heavy and towering intellectual, particularly what we characterize as communist intellectuals. As you know, he served in the World Marxist Review, which essentially assessed international development of the socialist struggles and the struggles of the working class towards their emancipation. To that extent, if he was engaging with you and he felt that you were not rising up to the right occasion, you could come out as arrogant, because intellectually he will decapitate you. You needed to raise the bar when you engage with Dr. Pahad on intellectual questions of the revolution. He was not a man to be taken for granted.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's ENCA reporter Moloko Moloto after attending the funeral of a struggle stalwart and former minister in the presidency, Essop Pahad.